a path. And listen to Reince Priebus earlier on exactly what they see as the key states on this election eve for Donald Trump to win the presidency.
You got to look at where the early vote is in Florida. We're up about 100,000 votes from where we were 4 years ago. In North Carolina, we're up about 120,000 votes from where we were 4 years ago. We won North Carolina. We're up in a big way in Ohio. And we're up, as compared to 2012, in a big way in Iowa. We are tied in Michigan, if not slightly ahead or slightly behind, but clearly both our data and the Clinton data in Michigan is saying the same thing, that it's very, very close. The same is true in Pennsylvania, and the same is true in New Hampshire and the 2nd Congressional District of Maine. Mm-hmm. You go out to Colorado, Megan, and ballots that have already been counted show, as to Republican-Democrat registration, that we have an 1,800 vote lead in Colorado, which is a shocker to a lot of people.
All right, Nevada? That is Reince Priebus on with the Megyn Kelly last night talking about where they think they're doing well right now. The key is turnout. Let me get to former Missouri House Speaker Tim Jones, our guest right now. Tim, it is all about the turnout, baby.
Mark, absolutely right. And, you know, I'm not going to say the polls are wrong. I'm going to echo the guest you've had on a couple times. I think his name is Lamora. You've had him on a couple times where he's talked about the polls are right if you believe that that's going to be the turnout model. But if the modeling of these polls is wrong and it's a different electorate than turned out in 2012, then the polls are not going to give us a read on what's going to be reality. And the reality is what's going to happen tomorrow. And what's going to happen tomorrow is a certain electorate is going to go to the polls and vote. And let me tell you, you don't have to listen to Fox News or the Wall Street Journal or any other common sense conservative pundit on this. You can look at the Clinton campaign. What is the Clinton campaign doing today? They're not going to Utah or Texas, or Arizona, or any other potential red-leaning state. Where are they going? Mm-hmm. They're going to Michigan.
Right.
They're going to Wisconsin. Mark, they know something. They know that the tide turned about a week or two ago, and the news yesterday from Comey, I think, is just emboldening people. And people are going, and independents. I think this is a message for independents. Independents are going, you know, what in the world is going on in Washington, D.C.? Those people don't know their you-know-what from their you-know-what. It looks like a kangaroo court, banana republic. We've had it. Trump is right. The political class on both sides of the aisle has really been a disappointment. Let's elect the one guy who's going to shake the whole bunch up. Donald Trump.
Well, I hope that they've reached that conclusion, but you're right. For Donald Trump to be in Michigan last night at, 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and I said earlier that he had Ted Nugent there playing for him, trying to get the crowd riled up. This is stunning. This has got to have the Clinton people on their heels, and I'm thrilled to see it. And earlier, Tim, I had Catherine Herridge on the air from Fox News.
Yes,
and
I heard that.
She was quick to point out that Comey didn't clear Hillary Clinton of wrongdoing. He just reached the same conclusion he reached in July, was that he couldn't find like criminal intent. Like he couldn't find that she intentionally did these things to press charges. So she's still just as guilty as she ever was.
Mark, that's absolutely right. You know, Mark, I don't know if we've ever talked about this or not. I'm a former prosecutor. That was my first career out of law school. I worked for the Nassau County District Attorney's Office up in the great state of New York. And, you know, we handled heavy caseloads and we handled some pretty serious offenders. And sometimes our investigations would go on for months, if not years, when you're dealing with organized crime families, similar to the Clintons, similar to the Clinton crime syndicate, you know? And, you know, here's the other thing I heard that someone made a very good point on the other day. I think it might have been Peter Schweitzer, who wrote the famous novel Clinton Cash. He said, look, the real investigation here may be the foundation. And the investigators are only going to get one. You're only going to get one crack at the Clintons. And you better have all your ducks in a row, and you better have everything you better have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted. And so if the real target here is going to be the foundation, then you're not going to waste your, let me say this. The email stuff, the server, she has violated national security. Many of our brave servicemen and women have gone to jail for less, like taking pictures of submarines and things, and they've gone to jail for that. I'm not downplaying the email scandal. What I'm saying is if they've got a more rock-solid case on direct quid pro quo access, that kind of an argument it's a lot easier to make to a jury when you can say that the Clintons provided access to the highest levels of our government in exchange for multi-million-dollar sums of cash into their foundation. That's a more salacious and more easier case to make. That may be the end target here. This investigation is long from over, and I can tell you there's a lot of FBI investigators we're hearing that are furious that Comey is doing this back-and-forth shuffle on this thing instead of being a little more clear-cut.
I hope that some of those patriots step forward here if they've got information that has been covered up or hasn't come out yet. I know that's a tough thing to do, but I hope that happens. Let's talk about the latest poll and apparently the final poll before the election tomorrow from a statewide perspective in Missouri.
Absolutely, Mark. So, the Trump train continues to definitely have an effect anywhere in any state where he is leading, and Jamie Allman always hits on this. Early on, the talking points from the Never Trumpers and some of the conservative elites who are going to, their livelihoods were going to be just as much in danger if Donald Trump wins because he's going to shake things up from top to bottom in the Beltway. And so here in Missouri, the actual truth is Donald Trump has significant coattails. And in this last poll, he remains in double digits, 52 to 41 over Hillary Clinton. And that 11-point lead is bringing along everyone from Roy Blunt, who the last poll we had on him was last week, not even a week ago, where he was up 4. And in this recent poll, Eric Greitens maintains his 1-point lead that he had last week when you and I talked, 47 to 46 over Chris Koster. Josh Hawley continues to have a significant lead over Teresa Hensley for AG, 50 to 41. Eric Schmidt for treasurer, 48 to 40 over Judy Baker. Jay Ashcroft, 49% over Robin Smith, 39%. The only one who still is tailing is Mike Parson for lieutenant governor. I think, Mark, that's easily explained. Carnahan does still have that name ID legacy. Not that people necessarily like him, but he's got the name ID legacy. Mike Parson does not. He's a state senator from Bolivar, Missouri, just doesn't have a lot of statewide name ID. He's only 3 points behind, 46 to 43. But if those Trump coattails continue to accelerate over the next 24 hours, even Mike Parson, I believe, can come from behind to win. We could have a clean sweep here in Missouri.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful of that. Were there new numbers today in the Blunt race? I didn't see them in this poll.
There were not. We had that last poll. We had a couple of final polls last week, I think on Tuesday and Wednesday, that showed that Roy had regained his lead and was expanding it on a daily basis, 1 to 1.5 points each day, going up. So I'm going to predict that Roy Blunt's going to win this by 5 points or more when all is said and done. But people still have to go out and vote, Mark. As you said, these polls mean really nothing. They're snapshots in time. They show trajectory and momentum. They mean nothing as far as casting a ballot. Folks, you still have to go and cast those ballots tomorrow everywhere across Missouri because if Republicans increase turnout in areas like southwest Missouri and south central Missouri and southeast Missouri, that helps the statewide ticket across Missouri.
I'm just looking at Real Clear Politics. It shows Roy Blunt with a 1.3% lead in the RCP average. So that's in the poll of polls. He's been leading often enough to have had a slight lead. But, yeah, you're right. Don't take anything for granted in this. And for God's sake, if you're going to vote for Donald Trump tomorrow, which it's clear that the majority of Missourians are, why would you not vote for the Republicans down ticket as well?
Well, exactly. And let's take the blunt race, Mark, as a perfect example of that. It really kind of sums it all up, all the way down the ticket for the whole rest of the ticket in the state. If you want Donald Trump to be your president, and you're going to go out and vote, and I think there's going to be historic numbers of people crossing party lines, crossing demographic lines, crossing all sorts of lines to vote for Donald Trump, because he really is the hope for America. We've had 8 years, Mark, of abject failure. Obamacare is in the tank. It's destructive. We see that these premium increases. People are out of the labor force more than they've ever been in time. Race relations have been made worse, not better. I mean, Obama has set race relations back 50 or 60 years. So from top to bottom, okay, if you're going to go make that change, jobs, immigration reform, whatever the reason is, don't you want him to have a Senate to work with as well?
Right.
And Roy Blunt is going to be, from what you were talking about this earlier, he's going to be the 52nd or, God willing, 53rd senator. So don't you want him there? Because he'll be a great partner for Donald Trump. He has been through this entire campaign. And secondly, don't you want a House to be a strong House? And then don't you want a governor and an attorney general, all those statewide offices? Don't you want them as partners with Donald Trump? God forbid Trump not pull it off. Same reason holds. You better have a Roy Blunt and everybody else down the line being a strong check to make Hillary Clinton the most ineffective president ever to walk the planet, because we don't want any of her policies to go into place.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody criticize Real Clear Politics for the way it runs its averages. However, if you click on their website right now and look at their electoral map, they have thrown so many states back into the toss-up category. I don't understand this. They've thrown Pennsylvania into the toss-up category. They've thrown Michigan into the toss-up category. Virginia's now in the toss-up category, and that helps Donald Trump. On the bad side, they've thrown Ohio into the toss-up category. Florida and Georgia are in the toss-up category, as well as Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada. So,
yeah, Mark, you know what that says to me? It says to me that nobody has any clue of who's going to turn out tomorrow, and people are actually thinking that this silent majority is for real this year. That's what that says to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. Tim Jones, listen, I appreciate your time. Look forward to working with you for our election coverage tomorrow night. We're going to be here all day, obviously, but we're going to be covering as soon as the results roll in from about 7 o'clock on. We're going to have Fox News radio coverage. We're going to have live local coverage starting at about 8. And, of course, Tim Jones is going to be part of it. Jamie Allman, Tony Colombo, Jason Church, myself. We're going to have Rod the Bod in here as well. Rodney Boyd is going to be in the studio tomorrow. We're looking forward to working with you.
Hey, Mark, it's going to be a wild ride tomorrow evening, my friend, and I'm very happy to take it with you.
Absolutely. I'm buying afterwards if it goes the way we want. How about that?
Yes, sir. I take you up on that.
All right.
We'll have a long night of celebration. Let's hope ahead.
Yes, sir. All right, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, have a good day. I appreciate that. I didn't mean for the whole listening audience. It meant for Tim Jones. I just want to clear that up since I was on radio.